Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Hod, that call for the establishment or how do you say now, a law to protect whistleblowers, one would think that already exists in Nigeria.
Well, the Public Interest Disclosure and Complaints Bill that the government tried in, I think, 2022 to push as a legislature, unfortunately, did not come to be the full-blown Whistleblowers Act that we have seen in some countries, on the continent. For example, when you go to Ghana, there is the Whistleblowers Act, Act 720, which is very comprehensive on how to protect a whistleblower, what are the channels to which a whistleblower can blow the whistle, and what is the system, that the government and the policies around it can use to make sure that the whistleblower is safe and is safeguarded. Unfortunately, in the country, we don't see that, and that is why organized labor, and progressive civil society and other, stakeholders are pushing for this whistleblower act, to be legislated, because you see, where you have situations of grand corruption, of kleptocracy, of embezzlement of public funds, if you do not have this act to protect the media or persons who have information around, how these monies were stolen, it becomes a big problem for not just the state, but for workers.
So that question of protecting, even where there is a legislation, for instance, do you think the legislation will make any difference? Because if the players in the field are not ready or are not willing to abide by that legislation, would that change anything? Would that let it work?
Well, you still have to start from somewhere. The legislation is important to give impetus for work in the area. We are governed by rule of law, and without legislature on this, you don't have even a starting point, and that is where we are, unfortunately.
So there is something we do in New Central. We talk to Nigerians, and we give Nigerians avenue for them to air their views, to speak about, or to ask their questions. So I have a question here from, I want to get that name now, Fade, saying, do you think that would you be willing to put out a legislation that will ensure that somebody can report you and get away with it?
Yes, that is the check and balances that we need in the system. Sometimes, when you don't have the legislation, when there is no bill passed in Parliament, there is no rule, it makes the system a bit lax, and therefore people just get away with things. Let me give you an example. You walk into a room, there is no one there, and there is an iPhone on the table. It's been there for 3 days. Nobody is picking it up. If there are no rules governing how people should behave in an area, research tells us that they begin to behave in a very funny way.
But Nigeria has enough rules, and some will argue, tell you that there are enough laws in Nigeria to protect any and everybody. The Constitution as is, if implemented to the letter. So what is the issue with our Constitution or our laws that we still need more laws to protect anybody?
Yeah, I mean, the Constitution is the bedrock for any democratic society, such as what we have in Nigeria. But then you need, specific laws, entrenched to protect what has already been given as the base. And therefore, it is important to have this kind of law. The Constitution is the mother of all, rules. But then you still need.
Let me just clarify here. That question was born from the fact that, I'll give you an example. We have, for instance, the Nigeria Police. From the Nigeria Police, the EFCC was pulled out, the ICPC was pulled out. We still have the NFIU, and all of them. A lot of these activities that they are all doing, in fact, almost their core functions, are actually embedded in the Nigeria Police. So, is that not, how do you say now, duplication of functions? Because we also have the traffic police and we have road safety. And then we have each state having their own traffic management organization, despite the fact that the traffic police or Department of the Nigeria Police is still there.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. It happens a lot with government agencies when everybody is trying to protect their territory, and then there's a kind of a duplication of efforts. You find that a lot, but not about, the law protecting citizens against whistleblowing. First of all, you need institutions to be independent, right? So the institutions that are mandated to combat, kleptocracy, to combat illicit financial flows leaving the shores of Nigeria, to combat, grand corruption or even corruption, must have systems in place to protect people who come in to report. It is a standard human rights-based approach, to development, and Nigeria has ratified a number of laws, international treaties and laws, but unfortunately domesticating them becomes a problem. And apart from just domesticating them and enacting laws to coincide with some of the international laws and treaties that have been ratified, implementation remains a huge gap. It is a problem not just in Nigeria, in most of our African economies, unfortunately. But Nigeria is a unique case. You see, the strength of Nigeria in terms of population, the strength of Nigeria in terms of the GDP, the strength of Nigeria in terms of the education, and the wealth and knowledge of the people is such that if we're able to get Nigeria working, if we're able to get Nigeria right, the spillover effect over other economies on the continent is going to be very positive.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Hod Ayingba, Chief Economist, International Trade Union Congress, Africa. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.